I still have fear at times. And it's really, really hard. And so I want to talk today about how you turn your fear into power. How do you have that unshakable confidence? I know a lot of people feel like, oh my God, you must be confident all the time. I've done lots and lots of trials. I teach people how to negotiate with narcissists, right? Does that mean I'm never afraid? No, I still get triggered. I still have those times when I'm walking into meetings or I'm walking into situations and I go, oh my God, how do I handle this situation? Right? I still have those times where feeling intimidated. How do you handle that? Well, first of all, I want you to know that by the end of this, you will have tools. And if you are new here, you haven't subscribed to this channel, I invite you to do so because every single day I'm helping you have tools, have resources so that you can feel like you have a voice. And I know sometimes you feel like you don't. Sometimes you feel so afraid. And especially when you're dealing with toxic people, they can trigger you. They go right for that jugular, they go right for your Achilles heel. They know where to go. They do. And your breathing starts to take over and your amygdala is shaking and you're like, "Oh my God," because they know where to go. The first thing I want you to do is start to realize, what are your triggers? What is it that is triggering you? And just start to notice when you are feeling a certain way. I think if you can start to stop and see what it is that triggers you, and I say stop, swap, and soar. Okay. Because that first stop where you can go, let me pause, let me not react and not act impulsively and just be in a breathing state for a moment, just even a moment, and notice that you are being triggered. It really helps in realizing that a lot of times it's just a thought. Your thoughts are just energy, they're just beams of neurons that are going on in your brain. They're not necessarily real. It's just a thing that happens to you. If you can stop for a moment and regain your composure, it gives you a second to realize, you know what? I can put an invisible shield and that invisible boundary down around you so that you can start to see that other person as if you are observing them, as if you're observing like a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. And then you can put this boundary down around you and say, you know what? I'm a person who deserves respect. You can put like that Teflon down around you and start to have a shield and demand that you're spoken to with respect and have that mindfulness, have that composure. Just pause. That's your first thing. Reflect. Then you can start to go, you know what? I can see that you're upset. I can see that you're angry. I can see that maybe we need to take this and speak later when you're calmed down. And then for yourself, you can reflect on the things that make you angry, the things that cause you to be defensive. I know for me, if somebody speaks to me in a way that is condescending, that to me is a trigger. And I get defensive on that. And that's a common theme for me. And I immediately, want to be triggered by that. And so for me, I have to stop myself and go, I'm not going to react because I can do things or I can say things that might cause me to do things that I might regret. So I have to stop and I have to go, you know what? What causes me to have those emotions? The best skill that a human can have is control of their emotions. Start to journal, write about your experiences, write about your feelings. Over time, if you can reveal your patterns, you can reveal your triggers, it'll really help you because then you can start to notice them. What are the physical sensations that you have when you start to feel triggered? What are the physical signs that are your emotions? Do you get a racing heart? Do you have tightening in your chest? Do you have a knot in your stomach? And then start to engage in that and be more attuned to your bodily responses. And then when you start to feel those signals coming on, you can go, you know what? I'm going to take myself out of this right now. I'm not going to allow myself. You can start to observe, not absorb. Invisible boundary comes down. Excuse me, I'm going to remove myself from this situation right now. Learn to notice those external cues when you're feeling disrespected, when you're feeling unheard, misunderstood. Excuse me, I see that you're upset. You can take that pause. You can identify those emotions. You can acknowledge your feelings. You can take that moment to use that rational thought. I say take a pause, right? Pause and breathe, acknowledge your thoughts, use rational thought, shift your focus, and then excuse yourself if needed. Pause. Then you can take the time to reflect. So that's stopping. The next thing is to swap. The swapping is to now you can shift into being more powerful, turning your fear into power. What can you do instead? You can make a plan. You can say, next time we talk, we're going to have an agenda. We're going to have a scope. We're going to have a time limit. I call it making a plan, Stan. When you go to talk to them, you're going to have an agenda. You're going to have a time limit. You're going to say, we have to stick to this time limit. We're going to have to stick to this agenda. And that's it. You want to go beyond this scope? Sorry, buddy. We're not talking about that today. When it hits the time limit, I would love to talk to you more, but sorry, gotta go. Make sure they know about the scope in advance. Make sure they know about the time limit in advance. And then the next thing is never jade. Even though I love jade, love it, but I don't love never jade. Never justify, argue, defend, or explain, right? Never justify, argue, defend, or explain. When you're having a conversation with them, instead of using anger, use curiosity. Tell me more about that. Why would you say that? That's interesting. Instead of anger, use curiosity. So that's how you respond. Observational phrases like you're reporting the news. You're never justifying, you're never arguing, you're never explaining. You are just reporting the news, just the facts. If this is helpful so far, I want to hear a yes. I want to see yes in the comments below. Helpful? What has helped you so much so far? Give me some feedback in the comments below on this video, and I want to get some conversation going. What has given you the most fear? What gives you the most fear when you go to have conversations with difficult people, or people who are toxic, people who are intimidating you? I want to know. When you comment on this video, it actually helps other people too. When we share, when we're vulnerable, when we talk about this, it actually develops a community here, and we actually help each other. We empower each other. We inspire each other. We lift each other up. Comment below what has helped you, or what phrases have helped you so far that I've given you. All right. Another one is a non-confrontational phrase, like just, that's an interesting perspective, something like that. Or thank you, I'll consider it. I agree that that's your perspective. Interesting feedback. Just say anything like that. Non-confrontational phrases. The next thing is the what's so principle. You know what that is? You keep your focus on what is so instead of the what if. What's so instead of what if. The facts. Keep yourself focused on what is actually happening. A lot of times, the what so principle is so much better. How good have you been? How amazing you've been? What you've accomplished? The things that are going on in your case. Rely on factual reasoning, or the things that are really going on in your world. And if you're going to go off in the what if, by the way, how about what ifing yourself into great things? Because you're going to what if yourself into an amazing future, because your thoughts create your reality, or take a time out. The other thing I do with fear, by the way, is I like to have a conversation with fear. I get to say, hey, fear, we're going on a ride. We're going to do this thing and it's going to be kind of scary. I get that you're going to come along, but you got to sit in the back seat and you got to keep your mouth shut. And you definitely do not get to touch the radio, and you definitely do not get to touch the steering wheel. It's another great way to turn your fear into power and unshakable confidence in any conversation. The last way is to soar. Now you're ready to soar. Now you're ready to rise above any conversation. You get to stop. You get to assess and swap that conflict for cooperation. You are positioned to soar and become your authentic self and stand in your true power. Now you're ready. You overcome those self-limiting beliefs by starting to identify yourself as someone who is powerful. Set a new floor for yourself. Instead of saying, I'm shy, say, I'm a person who's powerful. I'm a person who is assertive. Use I statements. I respectfully disagree. Visualize your success. Visualize yourself doing powerful things. And whatever you visualize yourself doing, visualize it the next level up. Your reticular activating system is looking for evidence in reality for whatever it is that you think you are. So look for evidence in reality of good things. Journal your future self. Journal who you are in the future. Write a letter to yourself 6 months from now of all the things that you've accomplished. It's a powerful exercise. Stand in 6 months from now and go, wow, I've done all these amazing things. It's a fantastic exercise. So, what thought would you want everybody to leave with?
Geez, I think that if people are following you because they want to be powerful negotiators in inclement types of environments, I would say that I was very impacted when I interviewed originally Stephen M.R. Covey. You know who he is?
I've followed, Stephen Covey. I'm not sure that I understand that there's a difference between the two.
Stephen R. Covey wrote the book, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. His son, who's younger than I, but maybe 10 years, is the world authority on business trust building. He's broken it down to analytics, and then he's quantified that if you can master these 13 traits, character factors, drivers, that your result, your performance, your economic, your psychic wealth will increase at least 300%. And I would tell everybody, in your life, you're negotiating all the time. The more trustworthy you are, the more authentic you are, that starts you on a powerful place, because now you've got, again, I break business down to clinical terms, not, and I'm very moral, but you want advantage in everything you do. You don't want disadvantage, do you?
I talk about ethically manipulating the manipulator. So that's what people hear me say all the time.
What are the factors that are going to, I look at all of the interactions in life, business, selling, love, parenting, all that. It's like the scales of justice, which you can relate to. And you want to put all the weights in the beginning, and then as you go through it, that way's on your side, so that you're going to be victorious. You're going to be a victor, not a victim, because you have control. I don't think people realize we have total control. You just have to understand that almost everything you engage in has factors, forces, causes and effect. And when you understand what they are and how to either nullify, control them, redirect them, you have power and advantage.
Let's talk about this narcissist. They come across so powerful, so all-knowing, like everything is going their way. And it's so frustrating sometimes. And it's so, it makes you sick. Like you feel nauseous inside, and you really start to feel and believe and know in your heart, like, oh my gosh, I can never win. I can never get past this. They always seem to get away with everything. Why do they always seem to get away with everything? Oh my goodness, I have had so many people say to me, well, how are they getting away with this constantly? And it just seems like it never ends. Like, how are you ever going to get past that? Like, you're just constantly on the defensive, and it's so hard to even imagine what it would be like to actually go on the offensive. And it seems really kind of like you're putting on somebody else's clothes or a coat or something. Like, this doesn't seem right to go on the offensive. A lot of times when you are in a relationship with a narcissist, it probably means that you're an empath or an empathic person, a very caring person. You feel very deeply. And that's what attracted the narcissist to you in the first place. And you, as the empath, were attracted to the narcissist in the first place because you saw something within them that you could potentially help them or love them back to health and all of that. That's what we empaths want to do. And if you want to know more about the relationship between the narcissist and the empath, check out my video on exactly that. There is like a symbiotic relationship between the narcissist and the empath. So, all of this, it means that when it comes time to actually fighting back against that narcissist who feels so much more powerful than you, it's really, really hard. And sometimes it can feel impossible, but it's actually so not impossible. The one thing I really want you to understand is that a narcissist is just a huge bully who's actually super scared inside. And the big secret is that you are actually the more powerful one, and they don't want you to know that. So they go to great lengths to try to make you think that you're the one who's less powerful, that they are the ones who are all-knowing and all-powerful. And in fact, they even use manipulation tactics and all kinds of verbiage, and they do all sorts of things to make you feel like you are the weaker one. So they'll even say things like, no one else thinks the way you do, and everybody else thinks this and this and this. And so you really start to feel isolated. And if you want to know more about narcissist favorite sayings, check out my video on the narcissist favorite sayings. But you're basically put in this position to just feel like they never will lose, no matter what. And so, you sometimes feel like giving up. But I'm here to tell you that it's never okay to give up. Don't give in. Don't give up. These people are basically terrorists. And if you fight back against them, you will see that they will eventually come unglued, that they will eventually collapse, that they will eventually give in. And if you want to know more about what happens when a narcissist collapses, you should definitely check out my video on what happens when a narcissist collapses. So, how do you fight back against a narcissist when they seem so much more powerful? Well, the first thing that you're going to do is check in your mindset. What is your mindset? Is your mindset something that says, I can be powerful against this narcissist? Or is it saying, I'm never going to win against this narcissist? And so if you want to know more about your mindset, check out my video on power thinking when it comes to narcissists. Mainly, what you want to do is just start to believe that you can be powerful against the narcissist. Understand that I've helped millions of people get the results that they want, and I can help you as well. But you can also help you. Just watch these videos or do the things that I'm telling you to do. You can do it. So start to believe it, because you can go, wait a minute, all these other people have done it in the worst of situations. They've turned it around, yet you can start to turn that ship around. 80% of a negotiation is won before you even walk into a room, and 50% is your mindset. So number one is just believing that you can do it. So number one is your mindset. Number two is keeping your emotions in check. Just really, when you are negotiating with that person who seems so much more powerful, they are going to try to trigger you. They are going to say things that they know will upset you. They know how to push your buttons, especially if it's in a divorce situation or even a business partner situation where you've actually had a chance to really get to know this person. They know what your weak spots are. They know how to get to you. So they know that if they say a certain thing, it's going to trigger you. It's going to take you off of your game. Expect that. And don't allow them to penetrate. Don't allow them to get to you, especially in front of them. I mean, hey, if you need to go cry or scream in the shower afterwards, scream in your pillow, yell to your therapist, whoever you need to, fine. But when you are in that situation with that narcissist, you say things like, I can see that that's how you feel. Like in other words, you leave it all over on their side of the table. It's not coming over here. And, it's almost like there's this glass shield around you and it's just like the bullets are just pelting off and heading back over their direction. All right. So when it happens, you just, I hear what you're saying. I know that's what you believe, something like that. You constantly are saying things that will actually just allow you to disarm them and also you to not be affected. I also have a video called Phrases to Disarm a Narcissist. You can check that out if you'd like as well. So that's number two. And I really want you to believe that you are powerful. And if you believe that you can be powerful, I want you to put in the comments, I can be powerful. Put that in there right now. I can be powerful. This is the start. Mindset, keeping your emotions in check. The third thing that you can do is actually really do your research. You're going to research your side. You're going to research the other side. You're going to do as much as you can to have everything prepared. Understand exactly and anticipate what it is that they're going to say. And then that way you'll have a response for it. The more that you can prepare, the less concerned you're going to be that they're more powerful. The more that you have your arguments ready to go, the less powerful they will be, especially if you're anticipating what the other person is going to say. And the fourth thing that you can do is use languaging that makes you seem more powerful. In other words, you can say things like, I know that we are both on the same page when it comes to this. But here is one issue that I want to present to you. And I anticipate that this is what your argument is going to be. And here's what my argument is. So you use powerful language. And you can also use powerful body language. So that's going to be number 5. Use powerful body language. Power language is putting your arm draped over the chair, grabbing your chin, steepling. These are 3 different ways that you look more powerful. Now, 5 ways that you give away your power, especially to narcissists, without even knowing it. And I want to make sure that you don't do that anymore. When you're interacting with toxic personalities, it can be really challenging. And one of the things that you tend to want to do is over-explain, over-defend yourself because you're on the attack all the time. This is when they send these long texts, these long emails, these long things. Sometimes it's like you have to keep writing, see more, right? In your texts. They're so long, and a lot of times it's filled with jumble most of it is not even true. 99.9% of it isn't even true. They just throw these things out there. They know it's not even true, but they just say these things just to get a rise out of you, just to get under your skin, just to manipulate you, just to annoy you, just to get you to react. A lot of times it's just that. You give away your power when you do. When you say, that's not true, and I need to explain myself, and let me defend myself, and we need to go point by point by point. And especially as an attorney, I have seen this over and over again because you feel like you need to go point by point by point because you think the judge or somebody sitting there reading every single one of these things. Let me tell you, they're not. And let me also tell you that when it's filed in the court system, that's not evidence. So you don't need to worry about that. Just because it's filed, that's not evidence. It's not. Just because somebody said it, it doesn't make it true. I know you want to, you're like, oh, I gotta respond. I gotta say something. You don't. That gives away your power because now that you're in it, now you're in the mud, now you're down there, you're slinging, you're doing. And that's exactly what narcissists want you to do. Not only that, but you're probably going to do things and say things and react in ways that maybe will not necessarily be the best for you. Let's just say. And I want you to remember that every text, every email, everything that you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit or something that could potentially be used against you, even if you're not going to court, even if it's just a regular negotiation that you are participating in the workplace, in your regular home life, or whatever it is, it could potentially be used against you. So don't over explain, don't defend yourself. It gives your power away. When you do that, you are basically agreeing that there's an issue. So you don't need to do that. Stop explaining, stop defending, right? So that's number one. Number two is poor boundaries or giving into guilt trips. Narcissists are so guilty of this. They're doing this to you. They have poor boundaries. They give you the guilt trip thing all the time. And then when you give into it, you give away your power. What happens is when the converse is true, they want you to respond immediately. And, it's this whole ridiculous game, right? But they have very poor boundaries. They lay these guilt trips on you. And when you give in to them, then you give away your power. So when you start to shift that dynamic against them, in order for you to really start shifting how this is going to go so that you can start becoming the more powerful one, so that you can start being the one that's now in control in these negotiations, you have to actually create these boundaries so that you now are in control. And the first thing you're going to do is create boundaries and make sure you hold fast to them. Don't give in to those guilt trips. Don't give in to the boundaries that you're now creating. Super steal boundaries is what I say. Super steal. So that's number two. Number three is don't allow your self-worth to depend on other people's opinions. That totally gives away your power as well, especially to narcissists' opinions, because obviously they don't feel very good about themselves. Part of the way that they control you is to put you down constantly. And remember, as I always say, they didn't attach themselves to you because you had so little value. They attached themselves to you because you had so much value. And that's why they feel so powerful putting you down, because they're degrading something that has so much value gives them a feeling of power. But when you allow your self-worth to depend on what their opinion is of you, it gives away your power. So don't allow your sense of power to have anything to do, or your sense of opinion of yourself to have anything to do with what they think or what anybody else thinks. Don't give them that. When you give your sense of what you think about yourself to anyone else, I mean, you're twisting in the wind. You got to be like an oak tree grounded in the ground that you are standing in, because then it doesn't matter what's happening anywhere else. There's always going to be people in the world that have an opinion about you and what you are doing. Can't allow that to have anything to do with you. So that's number 3. Number 4 is over apologizing. Obviously, if you did something that you need to apologize for, then you can apologize for it. But, when you constantly say sorry, 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 it's indicative of a person who doesn't feel good about themselves, doesn't feel like they have any power in this world. And it starts to irritate people. Sometimes people do that because they think it's going to make them more likable. It just makes you more irritating. And just say sorry, not sorry, and I want you to put that in the comments right now. Sorry, not sorry. Don't apologize. There's certain things that you just don't need to feel guilty for. Standing in your power is definitely one of them. And there's certain ways that you give away your power. Over apologizing is definitely one of them. So don't do that. Just say sorry, not sorry, and put that in the comments. And number 5 is not speaking up. There are certain times that you do need to speak up about things that are happening in your life. This was something that I had a problem with in my own life at times, where I felt like I didn't have a voice. I'm really proud to say that nowadays I feel like I have a voice, and I feel like I'm a voice on behalf of all of you against people who are toxic. I want you to feel like you have a voice too. And I feel like I am in my dharma, for those of you who know what that means. I want you to feel like you're in your dharma too, meaning you're living your purpose on this planet for your soul. And part of living your purpose for your soul on this planet is to use your voice. I want you to use your voice. So not speaking up when something is wrong and keeping your voice silent, your soul's voice silent, is against who you were meant to be here on this planet. Live out your highest intention for your soul. That's what you're supposed to do. You are an expert in emotional control, and you wrote a whole book on it. It's called My Mother's Rules, A Practical Guide to Becoming an Emotional Genius, which what's that?
That was very cheeky of me. It was a grand claim, but
I love it. And since you wrote this book, and since I teach people how to negotiate with narcissists, I would love to talk with you about the lessons that your mother taught you and the lessons that you have learned in dealing with people who are extremely difficult, volatile, toxic, use whatever word you want to use. But when somebody is erratic, when somebody is volatile, it's very difficult to deal with them on an emotional level. And, I would say keeping your emotions in check is one of the most important things to do when you are negotiating. Would you agree with me on that?
absolutely. Part of a narcissist's power is the ability to destabilize you. That's part of their power, just to upset you and make you wobble. So I always think of my emotional life as separate and apart from my functional life, from my physical life. And so even in the midst of craziness, you got to have 15 minutes a day doing exercise or something joyful, where that person is put into the closet because he cannot or she cannot live in the forefront of your mind all the time, because he or she will be working against you all of the time. You still, this is an unwinding of a past life. It is not your present. You know what I mean? It's transitional in nature, and you have to make sure that you cradle your emotionality and how good you feel uh consciously. You got to make it pursue. It's from 7 to 8. I'm gonna do whatever it takes, not whatever it takes, but I'm going to feel better. I'm going to do things and live and be in the moment and not simply be a divorcing person.
Yeah, and even if I mean, I also teach people how to negotiate in business as well. But you know, regardless of who the person is that you're dealing with, if they're a narcissist, they know how to prey on your emotions. They know how to trigger you.
Right.
So, what would you say to somebody who is in the moment? They're
Mhm.
in the mediation, or they're in the
Mhm.
arbitration, or they're in the courtroom, and the person is saying things to absolutely trigger the other person. You know, you're a thief, you're a liar, you're the narcissist, you know, whatever they want to say to have you go, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? You know, it's like that first instinct to just defend yourself. What would you say to them?
I always say in any fight you have, no matter who it's with, the first battle is always with yourself. So you go in there knowing what's going to happen. You go in there ready to catch those slings and arrows and put them down. Make it a game in your head. Well, that's one. Well, that's two. Well, that's three. Look at him. Look at me. Not having a reaction. Very calm. Take a look at your neck. Whatever you got to do to get you to deliver an emotional response that'll freak them out because they're not delivering, because you're not delivering to them what they expect. It's almost a game. Like, I take pleasure in not getting upset and excited with or to people that are trying to upset and excite me. It's fun.
Ah, that's so great. I mean, I've often said, like, you know, look at them like as if they're having a 2-year old having a tantrum on the floor. Like, you're not going to go get into it, right? But I like it even better that you're saying, like, have fun with it. Just, oh, there they go. There they go.
Yeah, in the middle of issues or problems, somebody's trying to get to me. I always like, oh my God, that is the most beautiful bracelet. Like, what you think of me and what you're thinking is so irrelevant to me. I had time to look at your wardrobe, and I ain't scared of you. You're not frightening me. I'm not in battle with you because I like your jewelry. And people like, and if you can send people off their game by being on your emotional game.
And what if people just don't feel that way? What do you think about fake it till you make it?
Absolutely. I lie to myself all the time. I'm not afraid of this. Every time before I get on a plane, I got to do a whole bunch of mental gymnastics and say, I am afraid, but I'm just going to get my behind on it and go. So I've been faking it till I made it all my life. If you ask anybody who was raised around me, they were just like shocked at what I do because I was extraordinarily shy kid, just extraordinarily. So you can fake it till you make it, and then it'll actually become your reality.
Yeah. Each time you face your fear and you do something that you were afraid of, you get a little bit more
A little
courageous.
bit more, a little bit more, and eventually it doesn't bother you as much, and you can just do it.
You have said that your mother was an emotional genius.
Mhm.
Tell me more about that.
She was, and I think it was innate with her. And I think we used to, when I was on the bench, that's when I realized how brilliant she was, because whenever I said anything that made a defendant like hang his head and say, wow, you know what, you got a point, it's because I've taken something that she's taught me, digested it, and reiterated it to him in a fashion that he could understand. And I used to talk, and my mother was very good at dealing with my father, who was bipolar. And I remember she told me a story when she was a little girl. Her mother had put her into an orphanage for Negro children back in the 30s during the Depression. and there was a little girl that used to play in the house next door, and mom used to think, oh, if I could just get out and play with that little girl, everything would be okay. And once she got out of the orphanage, she went running over to the little girl with her arms outstretched and said, little girl, little girl. And the little girl screamed and ran away. And mom said she stopped, looked around. She said, you know what? It ain't no better out here than it wasn't there, and kept it moving. And I just think that's how she, she has the ability to stop and assess how she felt about something. And if it's not borne out, she can put a period on it and do something else. And that's what she taught me.
So what happens if somebody is super, like emotions have gotten red hot in a negotiation, whether it's something your mother has taught you or something you would know, how would you advise somebody to start to calm that down and bring the temperature down a little bit?
You can always excuse yourself from the table. I mean, and I did this not too long ago in another thing, but it's just, I give voice to, I can't speak right now, I'm upset. I actually give voice to it. Or I exit myself from the room, or I used to have all kinds of things, things that I would snap on my wrist, or things that I would read. It's going to be all right. Or, whatever it is I used to have on my screensaver. Are you fixing, or are you worrying? There are a whole lot of dumb little things you can do to remind you that this is a moment of time and a piece of history, and you've got a beautiful long life ahead of you. And this is just something that we got to get through.
I love that. And what about if somebody is just being extremely disrespectful to you right to your face in the middle of a conversation or a negotiation? What would you say to that?
That was really unnecessary. And let it go. Because people will continue to engage in behavior if they know that behavior will agitate you, if that is in fact what they're trying to do. If it doesn't, it loses its fun.
Yeah. And what would you say is the best way for people to communicate as far as trial exhibits?
I don't know. And the legal game has changed so much since I was in the trenches. I would, with technology and all, I would not venture a guess on that one. I'm going to leave that to you.
I usually always say text message, email or court approved app like Our Family Wizard or something like that. Right. Or email, just because I think that they're the easiest for, as far as timestamps and being able to see the entire communication, and they have a date and all that sort of thing. That's my opinion. Just because texts they don't always have time and date stamps. They are often, way too long to include the entire conversation. So,
just to show you, when I was a judge back in Cleveland, they didn't have text yet.
Oh yeah,
this wasn't there. All of that, none of that was there.
This is true. This is a new thing.
So let's talk about how to have a powerful mindset against narcissists, because honestly, when you're negotiating with them, or when you're dealing with them or managing them or trying to deal with any kind of difficult personalities, that's like the most difficult thing. I get a lot of correspondence from people, and some of the most satisfying correspondence that I get from people is when people are like, okay, I won my negotiation, I got the results that I wanted, but the most surprising thing that happened to me is that my fear disappeared. But that's actually the most important thing that happens, because you cannot get the results you want, and you cannot manage difficult people or toxic personalities without that. And that's actually the thing that you have to lead with, because they smell blood in the water. And that's why they know that they can kind of target you and know that they can control you, because they look for people who are empaths. They look for people who are kind of the bleeding hearts, who have some sort of, wounds themselves, who have some sort of, really want to help people, who really feel like, I can save you, I can help you. And To them, that doesn't mean, oh, I can help you, I can save you, to them, that means, ooh, sap. To them, that means, I can take advantage of you. You think, oh, they're going to appreciate me. They're going to, wow, this person saved me. They're going to love me for it. They're going to see all that I did for them. And that ain't going to happen. It's going to end up being a black hole. You're going to end up feeling used. You're going to end up feeling abused. It's going to end up being this cycle where you're going to give. They're going to take. And it's going to keep going. And here's like the really kind of thing that's also sort of ironic is like a lot of times people are like, I'm afraid to like become strong against the narcissist because I'm afraid of the backlash. I'm afraid of the things that they're going to do to me. I'm afraid of like what's going to happen because they're going to be worse. Well, yeah, they probably will be worse initially because, you've conditioned them, they've conditioned you, you've kind of conditioned each other in a lot of ways. I mean, a lot of times you have a long history with each other and you've both kind of created a conditioning of each other. I mean, you've both sort of taught each other what you will tolerate or how the relationship is going to go. And there's been some expectations that have been set on both sides as a result. And so creating a powerful mindset means you're also going to have to create some new boundaries, new goals, new way of thinking for yourself as well. So, all right. So number 5, I'm going to kind of work backwards with your secrets here. 5 secrets to having a powerful mindset against narcissists. So that's kind of like my preface to the whole thing here. But let's work backwards with our secrets. So number 5 is start expecting them to behave like narcissists. I know that sounds easy, but it's not all that easy sometimes. I mean, you can still end up in the trap of like, can you believe they did this? I can't believe they did that. Oh my gosh. I mean, I remember having this conversation with a client one time where she had this huge situation with her soon-to-be ex in the parking lot of the school. And it was like 8:00, 8:30, and she calls me at my office and she was like, can you believe he did this right in front of the students, in front of the teachers? Everybody was there. And I remember saying to her, because she kept saying, can you believe he did? Can you believe? And I remember saying, yes, I can. Especially after all you've told me about him. What I can't believe is that you can't believe it. She actually started laughing because she was like, good point, fair points. Like, yeah, because like, just, yeah, don't be surprised when they act like themselves, right? They just expect them. There they go. There they are acting like their narky selves. Don't be surprised when they just act like themselves. So that's secret number 5. So now we're going to go to secret number 4. Secret number 4 is to be super specific about what it is that you want. So having a powerful mindset means, what is it that you want? Do you want a certain outcome? Do you want a certain vision? What is the goal of, the negotiation that you want? Is it, a certain parenting plan? If it's a business negotiation, what is the outcome? Sometimes people forget that. It seems so simple, but people often forget. Is it, if you're trying to end a business relationship, even if it's not a negotiation, what would be your perfect outcome? Is it to just go your own separate ways? Do you want to keep the business? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to dissolve it? What is it that you want? Do you want to keep the clients? Do you not? Be super specific. Write it down. Maybe write it down and post it everywhere. What goals do you want for your life, for your business, for your career? Watch my interview with Bob Proctor, by the way, which is amazing. It not only, by the way, changed lives of many people who watched that interview, it changed my own life. It was like one of my favorite interviews that I've absolutely ever done. So definitely go check that out. So that's secret number 2. Be super specific. You are placing orders to the universe. By the way, you're placing orders to the universe even when you say things you don't necessarily want. So, a lot of people say, I don't have enough money. 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 And I wonder why the universe doesn't bring them more money. Come on, be careful with what you say. Your words are very powerful. So if you want more money, be careful about what you say. Okay. So that's secret number 4. Secret number 3 is stay laser focused and put your emotions into it. See yourself in your outcome. Feel it. Emotion plus motion equals your outcome. Like really, really feel it. The movie The Secret, they were talking about like feeling yourself in the car, like you feel your hands on the steering wheel, you feel the hair, the wind in your hair, like really feel it. You have to really feel like what it's like. And like you can't just like write it down on a piece of paper. You got to really, really feel the emotion of what it is that you want, because that vibrational energy is super, super important. Okay, so if you're doing it, give me an I'm doing it in the comments right now. I'm doing it. I feel the power. I got the emotion. All right, number 2, watch your words. No weak language. No, I'm trying, I'm hoping, I might, maybe, I'm sorry. None of that. No weak language, people. No, I'm doing, I am Yoda. We're Yoda here. Remember Yoda? Do or do not. There is no try. Yes, love Yoda. All right. And secret number 1. Secret number 1. This is my own little secret. This is for me as well as for you. I got to do this myself too. Number 1 for myself is I don't leave my thoughts unsupervised. At least for me, my thoughts cannot be left unsupervised. I don't know about you, but I have to, like, if I'm, walking the dog or, doing things where my thoughts are left to their own devices, they don't usually go into the good neighborhoods. They usually end up in the bad neighborhoods. So I usually end up listening to podcasts, books, Audible books, things that will fill my head with the things that I want. So, control your input. That helps to control your output. So that's what I do. Don't leave your thoughts unsupervised. That is secret number 1 to having a super powerful mindset. I know dealing with narcissistic individuals can be draining, can be exhausting, can make you feel used, can make you feel abused, can make you feel like you are powerless, paranoid. I've been there. I know, not just representing them as an attorney and seeing what it's like in that situation, but also I've dealt with them in my personal life. And that's why I'm on this mission, this crusade to get you armed with exactly what you need. So I want you to have these kick-ass comebacks. I want you to have them so that you have these resources, these toolkit, this arsenal, right? So that you have these strategies so that you'll be better equipped to deal with them and have them at the ready so that you can handle their manipulative behavior when it comes, thrown at you. All right. So the first one is responding with empathy. All right. So what's like, you just say, what's your motivation for doing that? When you're dealing with a narcissist, ask them about what's their motivation for doing that. Instead of coming at them with anger, you just kind of make them pause. It's almost like stunning them for a second. What is your motivation for doing that? And you kind of almost get them to reflect on their actions for a second. They're not going to be having empathy for you. So never think that you're going to get them to have, like, acknowledge your actions, see your side, have closure, any of those things. But by prompting them to consider why they're behaving in a certain way, you get them to challenge them to think beyond their own self-centered mindset just for a quick second. Wait a minute. What is that? Okay. So that's number one, responding with empathy. The second one is, it seems like you're trying to make a point. You're saying something like, what is it you're trying to do? What is it you're trying to do? Again, when you kind of come at them almost like with a naive bewilderment, like, what is it you're doing? You're almost like feigning confusion in a way, instead of, coming at them with this anger and meeting them with anger. You almost sort of come at them with, what are you doing? And it seems like you're trying to make a point. And again, it sort of calls out their attempt to manipulate the conversation for their own benefit. You're sort of observing their tactics, and again, it almost sort of pushes it out to the sunlight and makes it transparent. The next one is, again, sort of an empathetic approach where you say, would it be helpful if I stopped? Would it be helpful if I listened? A lot of times I just find myself where I just stop and I just look at them. They just want to keep going. And so offering to just stop, offering to just listen, let them go. You value them, you value their perspective. A lot of times, honestly, they dig themselves into a hole, and they give you leverage. They tell you what they're thinking. They say things that are nonsensical. And, it stops them from constantly controlling everything. They think that they're giving constructive dialogue, and it just fosters better communication that way, because it takes you out of this feeling of frustration, and it puts you into this almost observer mode. The next one is like a seeking clarity, where you're saying, can you explain what you were thinking when you said that? Can you explain what you were thinking when you did that? Either when you said that or when you did that. Can you explain what you were thinking when you said that? Or can you explain what you were thinking when you did that? You're making them explain their thought process. You're confronting them about potential consequences of their words. You're confronting them about potential consequences of their actions. Kind of almost makes them think about their impact of their behavior, and it promotes self-reflection. The next one is where you again observe their behavior. You seem angry. You appear to be upset. You sound frustrated. You look worried. I love approaches where you almost are like reporting the news. You don't actually have to hold the microphone, but you can just sort of almost think of them as like a toddler having a tantrum on the floor. You wouldn't get down on the floor and have a tantrum with the toddler, right? You would just look at the toddler and you'd be like, okay, are you done yet? And that's sort of what you have to do with them. So you're addressing their emotions, you're redirecting the focus of the conversation. In some ways, you kind of end up getting more clarity. Are you worried about something? Are you angry about something? And you can encourage them to explore their concerns more constructively, even sometimes. Sometimes they'll be like, you goddamn right, I'm angry, whatever, but whatever. I mean, you don't have to be at the mercy of their wrath. Because I always say, step one, don't run. Step two, make a U-turn. Step three, break free, because you're kind of course correcting. You're stopping that conditioning from the narcissist. People say, just leave, whatever. But sometimes that's like too much to think about all at once, to just leave, get out of it, so you have to think of it in baby steps. So that first step sometimes is is just, a boundary. And that first boundary can just be, I'm going to just not allow somebody to speak to me in a disrespectful manner. The next one is challenging their behavior. So where you just say, how do you feel when somebody doesn't agree with your opinion? Because a lot of times they're not agreeing with your opinion. You're trying to get them to reflect on their need for validation and control, but you're really seeing like, hey, listen, you're doing the same thing here, right? So highlighting their emotional response and differing opinions, you encourage them to consider alternative viewpoints and open up to a balanced conversation. Now, they're probably not going to do that, but you're sort of seeing what's happening there. And by the way, I have a whole video with regard to kick-ass comebacks to narcissistic texts, by the way, too. And the one thing you really want to do is not engage too much, with all of this, because they're trying to pull you in. They're trying to bait you a lot of times. So what I'm trying to get you to do is sort of stay above the fray with this. Don't get too deep into the woods. Don't get too deep into the mud with this, right? Because they're trying to get you baited. They're trying to get you hooked in. And once you get hooked in, then you're down in it with them. If they pull you in, just don't do that. Stay where you're sort of looking at them. You don't explain, you don't justify, you don't defend yourself. Right? You look at them. The next one, number 7, is it sounds like what you're asking is. You're sort of almost like mirroring. You're almost sort of like summarizing. It sounds like to me what you're asking is, and then just sort of summarize. So by pointing out this, it sounds like what you want is validation from me. You're pointing out their insecurities a lot of times. They want all this validation. They want to control the conversation. I hate when you expose that in them. And by the way, I have a whole free sheet with all of a bunch of phrases that you can get, and it's at disarmthenarc.com. It's phrases for disarming narcissists, which will be all summarized for you. And then you can use them for whatever you want. So disarmthenarc.com, go grab those. The next thing is, are you trying to control the conversation? Again, you're like highlighting it. Sounds like you're trying to control the conversation. It directly says, look what you're doing. You're manipulating me. I see what you're doing. It calls them out, and you're challenging them to be more respectful. You're challenging them to be in a balanced conversation. This is so difficult. Okay. All of this is so difficult. If you don't have support, you need support. I have a free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Join my free private Facebook group and get help, get support. If you don't have access to therapy, I have a sponsor in this channel, which you can access through betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. Get the help and support that you need. It's a sponsor for us, so we receive commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have access to trustworthy sources. Number 9 is encouraging constructive dialogue. So why are you so defensive about this? They're always defensive, but then, they accuse you of things like that, right? Again, you're like highlighting their behavior, showing them what it is that they're doing. It's encouraging them to see that they're being insecure, and hopefully opening up more constructive dialogue. And if it's not, then that's fine. You can say, listen, this approach is not working for me. We can have a conversation about this when you can be more constructive. You can always walk away. And then the last one is, how does this conversation help us both? Again, encouraging constructive dialogue by emphasizing the mutual benefit of constructive dialogue. Where are we going with this? What's the bigger picture? What is the potential outcome for both of our benefit? You want to promote a cooperative and collaborative approach to communication. They'll say that that's what they want, but of course it's not. We've discussed 10 kick-ass comebacks to shut down narcissists so that you can also take back your own power. And that's really the more important thing here, right? You want to stand up to that manipulative behavior. You want to reclaim your voice in this. And by utilizing these empowering comebacks, you can create those boundaries and start taking back your own voice in this thing. Foster healthier communication, maintain your self-worth. Don't let anyone dim your light anymore or undermine your value. Stay strong, stay confident. You have value. They didn't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves and stay attached to you because you have so much. Don't you dare ever forget that. I want you to put that in the comments right now. I have value. I have value. I want you to start feeling your power when it comes to narcissists, because the one thing that they don't want you to have is power. They don't want you to feel respected. They don't want you to feel like you are confident. And so that's what I want you to have. They feel like they've got dominion over you. I feel like it's that spider versus fly thing. They catch you in that web, they start sucking all the life out of you, and you just feel drained and you feel stuck there. How do you make a narcissist respect you? How does that happen? Well, there are a number of different ways, and I'm going to give you 10. You're going to want to watch all the way till the end here, because I'm going to give you 10 and I'm going to save the best one for the end, of course. So the first one is that you got to stay a little bit distant from them. You can't be so close that they know your weaknesses. This is for people who haven't quite gotten into relationship with them yet. These are for people who are just kind of reading the room with narcissists. You've kind of started to figure out, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Maybe you've watched my other videos on love bombing, my other videos on, the early relationship warnings of a narcissist, and you're starting to see the red flags. When you see this is narcissism guaranteed. That's another one of my videos. And you're going, wait a minute, no, stay the distance, stay a little bit aloof from them, because they want to grasp you. They like that chase. If they can't quite grasp you, then they respect that a little bit, right? They want that. They want the shiny thing. Remember, narcissists don't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves to you because you have so much. So if you stay a little bit distant from them, they think, wait a minute, this is something I can't have. So you can't be so close to them that they know your weaknesses, because then they use them against you. So that's number one. Number two is stay independent from them. If you're not financially dependent on them, you're not emotionally dependent on them, then they respect that from you. If you become dependent on them, if you become needy, then that's when they can start ghosting you. That's when they can start giving you that silent treatment. Remember, it's in that love bombing phase, that grooming phase, that conditioning phase. That's when they start to get you to need them. They start to get you to want them. You start depending on that dopamine hit. And that's when they can turn around and start saying, no, I don't want you. No. And that's when you start going, no, I do. And you become dependent on them, whether it's emotionally or financially. And that's when they have that power over you, that control, that dominion. So if you stay independent from it, then they don't have that, and they respect you for that. Number three is you continue to have something of value that they want, whether it's prestige. They attached themselves to you because of that supply source, that IV they wanted to attach themselves to, or the optics of hanging out with you, that power source, that money source, the influence source, whatever it was. So if you still have that, then, maybe it's your looks. Remember, they are all about how they look to the world, right? So there's that too, that diamond level source of supply. The next reason why they will continue to respect you is if you're in a position of power over them. They could be a narcissist. They could be the most flaming narcissist on the whole planet, but let's say you're the judge in a case. Well, okay, they're going to have to respect you. Or maybe you're their boss, or maybe you're the CEO of the company or something like that. Then they're going to continue to respect you. Or it could be that you're the leader of the group that they all hang out in. They're going to respect you for that. Maybe you have more money than anybody else in the group. They'll probably respect you more for that. If you have more power, you have more dominion over everybody else, you've got some kind of gravitas that makes them look up to you for some reason, then they'll respect you for that. Okay, so the next reason that they will continue to respect you is that let them believe that you're not on to them yet. Once they think that you're on to them and they know that you're on to them as being a narcissist, then that mask whips off. You become public enemy number one, and they see things in black and white. So if you're not for them, then you're against them. And, all hell can break loose at that point. And if that's where you're at, then you might want to go ahead and grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at this point, which you can get at winmynegotiation.com. It's a free 15-page ebook, which has helped literally thousands of people win their negotiations. Highly recommend that you go grab that right now. Go get it. It will help you definitely win your negotiation. All right. So that is number 5. Number 6 is to show them that you are of high value, whatever it is, in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's because you're continue to give them money, sex, prestige, whatever it is, continue to show them that you are of high value. If they feel like they're going to be lesser in some way without you being around, then they will continue to respect you. So that is number 6. Number 7 is being friends with people that they want to be friends with. So they will respect you because, remember, everything is transactional for them. Everything is surface for them. So transactional surface. So diamond level supply for coal level supply. Those are my words. Diamond levels, how they look to the world. Everything has to feed their black hole inside. That coal level supply is devaluing you, controlling you, manipulating you. So it's got to feed one beast or the other. Number 8, making them look good. Or feel good. So you're fluffing up their ego. If you're constantly fluffing up their ego, especially in front of other people, then they want to keep you around. But you got to make it believable. If I were you, I would only do this to ethically manipulate that manipulator. So I call it fluff or favor, vomit later. Hey, can you do X, Y, and Z? You're so much better at it than I am. And it'll be done so much more fast or more efficient than if I did it, whatever that is. But you're fluffing up their ego like you're fluffing up a pillow. So if you can do that, then that'll make them respect you. But I wouldn't do it all the time, because if you're constantly pandering to them, then they won't respect you. Okay. It's got to be believable, and it's got to be done in a certain way. Because remember, you've got to set boundaries early on. You've got to keep your distance. And you have to have respect for yourself. And always remember, and this is number 9, have respect for yourself, and always remember to remain calm and non-emotional. Because if you get emotionally invested, if you start getting down and dirty and into it with them, and you start taking their baits, then they won't respect you anymore. So that's number 9. Number 10, which I told you was one of the most important ones. This is kryptonite when it comes to narcissists. This is like the absolute thing. When I'm talking about slay, strategy, leverage, anticipating, and focus on you, this is why. This is the you. This is absolutely the most important thing. Be authoritative, be confident, be self-assured. If you stand in your power, if you know who you are from the inside out, nobody can touch you because you stand in your power. You are authoritative. You are confident. You know who you are.